Hi all. Our topic for presentation is mind body medicine, yoga, meditation, and biofeedback. So, first, I would like to begin with yoga. First, I would like to give you a brief history about yoga. It is believed that Lord Shiva of Hindu mythology is seen as Adi Yogi or the first guru of yoga. So he spread this knowledge of yoga to the seven sages who further spread it to the different parts of the world. So yogic culture found its full expression in Indian subcontinent and here sage Agastya crafted it. So talking about some of the early forms of yoga, there are two main early forms of yoga. Pancha Mahavrata or five great vows by Mahavir and Ashtamaga or eightfold path by Lord Buddha. So eightfold path is mostly practiced by people. So Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which is actually followed by most of the people, is mainly based on eightfold path. So, speaking about the eightfold path, there are mainly eight stages in yoga: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Here, Yama means restraints. So, there are five yamas in yoga: Ahimsa, which means non violence; Satya, which means honesty or truthfulness; Asteya, which means non stealing from others' properties; Brahmacharya, which means chastity or sexual restraint; then Aparigraha, which means being satisfied with what you have. Now, coming to Niyama, there are five Niyamas in yoga, which are Shaucha, which means cleanliness; Santosha, which means contentment; Tapas, which means self discipline; Swadhyaya, which means self reflection; and Ishvara Pranidhana, which means submitting yourself to the higher consciousness. Now comes asana. So, asana means practicing postures in order to attain physical health. Then, pranayama means breathing techniques. Then comes pratyahara, which is actually kind of a complicated topic because pratyahara actually means sensory withdrawal. Many people are confused about what this term means. So, actually, the meaning of pratyahara is being aware of what is happening in the external world, but our body and mind should not be disturbed by this. So, it basically means being completely detached from the external world. Then comes dharana, which means concentration. Then dhyana, which means meditation. And samadhi, which means absorption into the universal identity. Now comes different branches of yoga. So hatha yoga is the kind of yoga which is practiced mostly by people. So why is it the most popular style of yoga? Firstly, it purifies one's body and mind. And people who are leading a family can practice hatha yoga. It is most suitable for them because other forms of yoga like raja yoga requires complete detachment from one's family and luxurious life. Then comes jnana yoga. So, Jnana Yoga is something which focuses on self realization. So, it involves various techniques of meditation to attain inner knowledge and convert it to practical wisdom. Then comes Mantra Yoga. So, this style involves chanting of mantras and its various techniques. The aim of Mantra Yoga is to attain salvation. Next comes Bhakti Yoga. This type of yoga is based on one's faith in God, which they believe in. So, one's born with his or her faith should be strong to practice this style of yoga. Next is Kundalini Yoga. So, this style of yoga deals with awakening different chakras in the human body to connect with the supreme consciousness. Now comes Karma Yoga. This style focuses on complete devotion to one's work. It means to work selflessly without expecting anything in return. Now comes Kriya Yoga. So this style deals with activating the consciousness. Next comes Swara Yoga. So this technique helps one to realize consciousness through control and manipulation of breath. Now comes Raja Yoga. So this is the most comprehensive form of yoga which involves all 8 stages of yoga as formulated by sage Patanjali as mentioned earlier. So now we come into the most important part of the presentation. Why do we need yoga? So the benefits of yoga are innumerable. It can keep you calm, it can improve your mood, your sleep patterns, your physical flexibility, your concentration, etc. etc. It can also be a cure for many of the physical and mental health issues caused by your lifestyle, like poor blood circulation, blood pressure, arthritis, osteoporosis, back pain, cholesterol, polycystic ovary disorder PCOD, or polycystic ovary syndrome PCOS, stress, depression, anxiety, etc. So, how are yoga and mental health related? So, studies show that yoga is an effective treatment for mental health issues like depression, anxiety, stress, etc. It also helps with dealing with the stress caused by physical illnesses. So, as the postures in yoga improves physical flexibility, it helps people to calm their mind and gain a better self-awareness. So, the beginning stage of yoga practice can cause persistent pain, but practicing yoga by overcoming these hurdles can improve self confidence in people. So, there might even be a possibility that people who are less motivated to do things, like a depressed, anxious, or stressed people, can find it difficult to have a drive to practice yoga. So, interaction with other practitioners of the yoga class can get them motivated to do yoga properly. So, using yoga as an intervention for mental illnesses can encourage people to practice yoga lifelong, which provides an added advantage of keeping them physically fit lifelong, and this also becomes a self care practice for them. In short, we can say that yoga is a way of life and it can help you face your life problems with a smile on your face. So now we'll be looking into some of the studies which shows that yoga is an effective treatment for mental illnesses. So it is proven that 25% people with mental disorders like schizophrenia and 81% of people with generalized anxiety disorder experience depressive symptoms. So studies show that practicing yoga can have a moderate effect on these depressive symptoms. So the increase in frequency of sessions can lead to even further reduction of depressive symptoms. So next we come to a study conducted in Japan. So it is a known fact that Japan has a large number of senior citizens like cancer, heart diseases, dementia, stress, degenerative joint diseases, and respiratory infections are the most common diseases among senior citizens in Japan. So daycare centers and old age homes are adopting several methods to bring changes in the lifestyle of senior citizens. So assessment of salivary alpha amylase or SAA activity is a newly developing non-invasive simple method to assess the acute sympathetic response or stress. So alpha amylase is one of the major protein components of saliva. So sympathetic stimulation increases the salivary protein secretion and parasympathetic stimulation increases the salivary flow rate. So it has been studied that stress induced increase in salivary amylase is independent of salivary flow rate. So, in a group of 25 people with 15 elderly and 10 young citizens, regular yoga classes were conducted and the SAA activity was measured. So, it showed a decrease in SAA activity irrespective of age. So, this shows that yoga is a useful intervention for stress irrespective of age. So, the yoga classes consisted of some yoga asanas and pranayama techniques. So now we move on to the topic pranic healing, which is not familiar to many. So we all know that through meditation, the energy levels in our body increases. So what if I tell you we can use all this surplus energy to heal ourselves and others? So this is what exactly pranic healing is. Pranic healing is an ancient science and art of healing that uses prana or ki or life energy to heal the whole physical body. So, prana is the life energy which keeps the body alive and healthy. So, it is used to cure physical and mental illnesses. Through yoga, one can increase the energy levels inside him and use it to heal himself or others. So, these are some GDV or gas discharge visualization images taken by All India Yoga Vidya Pranic Healing Foundation Trust for the research by Dr. C. Sundaram and Dr. Vrinda JP. So, you can see that the aura of a person before and after meditation is different. Like before the meditation, the aura was less, and after meditation, the aura increased. So now we come to Super Brain Yoga, which is a very easy yoga to practice. So, in simple words, Super Brain Yoga is just holding your ears and squatting. So, this is a very simple exercise which can be practiced anywhere and just takes a few minutes. So, these are the steps involved. Stand up straight, facing the sunrise if possible. Place your tongue on the roof of your mouth, directly behind your teeth. So, this should feel like you are about to make the sound la. Keep this placement throughout the activity. Move your left hand across your upper body. Reach for your right earlobe with your thumb and forefinger, keeping your thumb in front. Move your left hand across your upper body. Reach for your right earlobe with your thumb and forefinger, keeping your thumb in front. So move your right hand across your upper body and reach for your left earlobe. Again, keep your thumb in front of your forefinger. You should now be gently pressing against both earlobes. At this point, take stock of your position. Make sure your left arm is close to your chest and tucked inside your right arm. Inhale deeply through your nose. While doing so, move towards the ground in a squat position. Hold your breath for a beat or two. Move back into a standing position and then exhale. Repeat this process anywhere from 15 to 21 times. Assess your position every so often and continue holding your earlobes. Make sure your tongue is still touching the roof of your mouth. So these are the benefits of Super Brain Yoga. Strengthening the immune system and promoting fast healing due to the increase in alpha wave activity, reprogramming our state of inner consciousness, improving intelligence, creativity and overall performance, synchronizing the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So now we go into the demonstration of Super Brain Yoga. When you go down, you have to inhale, and when you go up, you have to exhale. Now keep your tongue on your palate. You have to repeat the same procedure for 14 times. Thank you.
In our topic Mind Body Medicine, I will be specifically sharing about meditation. So, starting with the history of meditation. The word meditation is derived from the Latin word meditare, which means to engage in contemplation or reflection. After meditation's introduction to the Western world by Indian spiritualist Paramahansa Yogananda in 1920, the nature of scientific investigation of spiritual beliefs and practices underwent a drastic change. With the scientific advancement and refinement in instrumentation, scientific study of effects of meditative practices became possible. A formal acknowledgement of the academic curiosity within psychology came in 1977 when the American Psychological Association issued a statement on meditation stating that meditation may facilitate the psychotherapeutic process. Moving on to the next slide, types of meditation. There are mainly 7 types of meditation. And the first one is guided meditation, sometimes called guided imagery or visualization. With this method of meditation, you form mental images of places or situations you find relaxing. You try to use as many senses as possible, such as smells, sights, sounds, and textures. You may be led through this process by a guide or a teacher. The next one is mantra meditation. In this type of meditation, you silently repeat a calming word, thought, or phrase to prevent distracting thoughts. The next one is mindfulness meditation. This type of meditation is based on being mindful or having an increased awareness and acceptance of living in the present moment. You broaden your conscious awareness, you focus on what you experience during meditation, such as the flow of your breath. You can also observe your thoughts and emotions, but let them pass without judgment. The next one is Qigong. This practice generally combines meditation, relaxation, physical movement, and breathing exercises to restore and maintain balance. Qigong is a part of traditional Chinese medicine. The next type is Tai Chi. This is a form of gentle Chinese martial arts. In Tai Chi, you perform a self paced series of postures or movements in a slow, graceful manner while practicing deep breathing. The next one is transcendental meditation. You use a mantra such as a word, sound, or phrase repeatedly, that is, silently, to narrow your conscious awareness and eliminate all thoughts from your mind. You focus exclusively on your mantra to achieve a state of perfect stillness and consciousness. The last one is yoga. You perform a series of postures and controlled breathing exercises to promote a more flexible body and a calm mind. As you move through poses that require balance and concentration, you are encouraged to focus less on your busy day and more on the moment. The next slides are elements of meditation. So, focused attention. Focusing your attention is generally one of the most important elements of meditation. This helps free your mind from many distractions that cause stress and worry. You can focus your attention on things such as specific object, an image, a mantra, or even your breathing. So the next element is relaxed breathing. This technique involves deep, even-paced breathing using diaphragm muscle to expand your lungs. This purpose is to slow your breathing, take in more oxygen, and reduce the use of shoulder, neck, and upper chest muscles while breathing so that you breathe more efficiently. The next element is a quiet setting. If you are a beginner, practicing meditation may be easier if you are in a quiet spot with few distractions, that is, no television, radios, or cell phones. As you get more skilled at meditation, you may be able to do it anywhere, especially in high stress situations where you benefit the most from meditation, such as a traffic jam, a stressful work meeting, and so on. The next element is a comfortable position. You can practice meditation whether you are sitting, lying down, walking, or in other positions or activities. Just try to be comfortable so that you can get most out of your meditation. Next slide is benefits of meditation. Managing mental health. Meditation helps relieve stress, reduce anxiety, increase kindness, and improve self-awareness and self-esteem. Meditation thus helps in the overall development of a person. A good personality can be achieved through following this. Learn to let go and be firm. A life situation affects us deeply when we are not able to let go. The emotional baggage of an unfavorable situation and person torments us, sometimes to a great extent that our ability to live happily crumbles. Meditating regularly helps us to let go and also helps us stay firm and passionate about what are we doing. Reduces aging. Studies show that meditation keeps you young and improves longevity. One of the main reasons for this is the diminishing effects on stress, a factor which has a negative impact on the body. So the next one is more energy and more efficiency. Meditation clears one's mind and increases one's energy levels. Meditation can stimulate the vagus nerve, which promotes the positive emotions and relaxation. Meditation reduces exhaustion among entrepreneurs as it reduces the workplace stresses, bringing you more calm and energy. Efficiency naturally increases as you feel more energized and have more clarity of mind. So the next one is overcome anxiety and depression. Meditation has been shown to be as effective in relieving symptoms of anxiety and depression as antidepressants. It increases the prana level, that is, the life force in the body. According to Ayurveda, as prana level increases, anxiety decreases automatically. The next one is improves focus, attention, and memory. Meditation improves concentration and helps one to be in the present moment. If you observe, the mind vacillates between the past and future. We are either angry about the past or anxious about the future. Meditation helps bring the mind to the present. As that happens, focus and attention span improves. Meditation also improves gray matter in the brain, which improves memory. So the next one is healing and managing pain. Meditation helps manage chronic pain effectively. Regular meditators with chronic pain are able to live with a pain that is manageable. So the last one is benefit your health. That is, with meditation, psychology undergoes a change and every cell in the body is filled with more prana, that is energy. This results in joy, peace, enthusiasm as the level of prana in the body increases. On a physical level, meditation lowers high blood pressure, lowers the level of blood lactate, reducing anxiety attacks. It increases the serotonin production that improves mood and behavior, and it also improves the immune system, and finally it improves our sleep. Moving on to the next slide, meditation and mental health. The seminal work of Marshall Inhan, who developed dialectical behavior therapy, is one example of successful integration of mindfulness meditation with psychotherapy for the treatment of character pathology, depression, addictions, and eating disorders. Other studies addressing meditation's impact on medical illness have indicated a possible role for meditation in the treatment for chronic medical illness, including chronic pain, insomnia, and hypertension. Studies have shown meditators to be superior to control subjects in their ability to empathize, and meditation may even enhance therapeutic outcomes in the patients of psychotherapists who meditate. A study published in April 2018 in the journal Psychiatry Research found that patients with generalized anxiety disorder who took course in mindfulness based stress reduction, where they learned several different strategies to manage stress, had lower stress related hormonal and inflammatory levels than people who did not practice mindfulness. In a study published in September 2016 in the journal Frontiers in Human Neuroscience, found that meditation helped the people manage negative emotions. Moving on to the next slide, meditation in counseling. Meditation in psychotherapy is gaining importance because of its effectiveness in dealing with the various counseling needs. The solution to any problem can only be obtained with clarity of mind. It therefore becomes important to calm the mental chaos before looking for solutions in life problems. Meditation techniques, especially mindfulness meditation, proves to be really beneficial for a person who is seeking counseling help, as it helps to improve focus by being in the present. So this is all about meditation in counseling. The next section of biofeedback will be handled by Devika.
Biofeedback. Biofeedback is a methodology by which the participant receives ongoing feedback of the psychological changes that are occurring within their body. That is, it is a technique used by both teacher and participants to measure and understand the resultant psychological changes occurring in their body after practicing asanas and meditation. In most of the cases, the participants are not aware of the changes happening within their body. So, using a biofeedback equipment, anyone can easily record the muscle tension, temperature, blood flow, heart rate, respiration, etc. The purpose of biofeedback. Biofeedback is aimed at combating stress through relaxation techniques. Biofeedback appears to be the most effective for conditions that are heavily influenced by stress. It is also used to treat numerous physical and mental health issues, including asthma, incontinence, constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, side effects from the chemotherapy, high blood pressure, chronic pain, stress, or anxiety. Some people prefer biofeedback as a form of treatment for these conditions because it's non invasive and doesn't rely on medications. Other people pair biofeedback with more traditional treatment options to improve the overall wellness. How does it work? During biofeedback, a person is connected to an electric sensor which collects the information about the body and displays them back. When you are under stress, your heart rate will speed up, your muscle tighten, your blood pressure rises, and you start to sweat and breathing quickens. You can see these stress responses as they happen on the monitor and then get immediate feedback as you try to stop them. These are some methods used in biofeedback. The first one is electroencephalograph, which is also known as the neurofeedback or EEG. The electroencephalograph is an equipment measures the voltage fluctuations resulting from the ionic current within the neurons of the brain using electrodes. This method can be used while practicing meditation. It can measure the whole area of the brain, levels of neurotransmitters, hormones, and the blood flow while practicing meditation. Electromyography or EMG is another method used in biofeedback. Using this method, we can use to measure the biofeedback, which measures the muscle responses and electric activity in response to the nervous stimulations of the muscles using electrodes which are connected to the body. That used was capnometry. Here, a handheld device called a capnometer measures the amount of carbon dioxide exhaled. The respiratory sensor monitors the oxygen intake and the carbon dioxide output. This differentiates the correct breathing form from problematic breathing practices. The breath control training may be used to treat panic attacks, asthma, and a variety of stress related conditions. The fourth method is galvanic skin response. Here, a small, handheld, and self contained galvanic skin response monitoring device can be used for the home biofeedback. This device precisely monitors the stress level by translating tiny tension related changes in skin conductance in the rising or falling tone. So, by resting the two fingers on the sensing plates, you can learn to lower the pitch and your stress level. The galvanic skin response can be used in the treatment of anxiety, fear, stress, and sleep problems. The benefits of biofeedback: it can help to reduce the chronic pain, headaches, anxiety, urinary incontinence, high blood pressure, injury, asthma. In case of chronic pain, by helping you to identify the tight muscles and can learn to relax those muscles. The biofeedback can maybe help to relieve the discomfort of the conditions like low back pain, abdominal pain, etc. For pain relief, the biofeedback can be benefit people of all age from children to adults. Headaches. Headaches are one of the best studied biofeedback uses. Muscle tension and stress can trigger the migraine and other type of headaches and can make headache symptoms worse. There is good evidence that the biofeedback therapy can relax the muscles and ease stress to reduce both the frequency and severity of headaches. The biofeedback seems to be especially beneficial for the headaches when it's combined with medications. Anxiety. Anxiety relief is one of the most common use of biofeedback. Biofeedback lets you to become more aware of your body responses when you are stressed and anxious. Then you can learn how to control these responses. The urinary incontinence. Biofeedback therapy can help people who have trouble controlling the urge to use the bathroom. The biofeedback can help women and strengthen the pelvic floor muscles that control the bladder empathy. After several sessions of biofeedback, the woman with incontinence may be able to reduce their urgent need to urinate and the number of accidents they have. The biofeedback can also help children who wet the bed as well as the people with fecal incontinence. Unlike drugs used to treat incontinence. Biofeedback doesn't tend to cause side effects. High blood pressure. Evidence on the use of biofeedback for high blood pressure has been mixed. Although the techniques does seem to lower the blood pressure slightly, the biofeedback isn't as effective as medication for the blood pressure control. And also the biofeedback can be used for the relief of asthma and injuries from the accidents. These are some relaxation techniques used in biofeedback therapy. They are deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, guided imaginary, and mindfulness meditation. So, these are our references, and thank you all for your kind attention.